This is Continuum Drag, a podcast where we watch sci-fi, fantasy, and everything in between. This week, Legend, episodes 2 and 3.
The chemical composition of the bullet that was taken out of your shoulder and the one that killed the bank guard are identical, and they do not match the bullet that was pulled out of your belt.
I don't understand. What's the difference?
These have traces of bismuth and antimony. This one, yours, is pure lead. These are government issue.
Wait a minute. Why would the bank want to kill one of its own security men?
In my book, if it were my book, it had something to do with that missing money, the $250,000.
Welcome to Continuum Drag, the podcast putting the old lang syne in the old west. I'm Luke, here with my co-host Jordan. What's real, Jordan?
Remember when the one line in this show, and I can't remember what episode it was, but it actually got a chuckle out of me, which I know it shouldn't have. But the guy was like, "I'm working undercover, incognito as well," and I had a little chuckle. I know it's dumb. I know it's a dumb line, but I was like, all right, you got me.
Well, Jordan, I guess I should have said, what's festive, because it's time for our annual gift exchange. It's the holiday episode.
Okay, I don't know if this has ever happened before, Luke, but I obviously forgot. I forgot it was Christmas, and I forgot. And you know what's funny? I even looked at the calendar, and I was like, "Oh, the Christmas episode's coming up. Got to remember that." And then we're here. And not only that, I have a box beside me, even though we're in different countries, and it came to me in a very, very confusing way.
Oh, go on.
Well, it just was. So I'm packing the car in the trunk, and there's this very peculiar box, and I said, "What's that?" And then Jamie says, "You can't look at that." And I was like, "What?" And she's like, "You can, she's like, it's not for you, but it's for you." And I was like, "I don't know what that means. Is it?" I'm like, "Is this a present from you? I'm not supposed to see." She's like, "Not for me." I'm like, "Is it a present?" And she's like, "I can't tell you." And I was like, "I don't know what this is." It's just someone sent me a bomb. What is happening? And it took, honestly, this was weeks ago, and then it's been a lot of don't even look at this box, don't go near it, and all this. And then eventually, something let slip in some way, and then she was like, she's like, "Luke," and I was like, "Oh no, the Christmas episode's happening." It's too late. This was like a day or so ago. So anyways,
Jamie was extremely helpful in helping me organize getting this box to you. It was not easy. It was not simple. You've been very busy. You and your family have been all over the place as a result of that. So she had to work quite hard to make sure it was acquired from your home and then brought with you when you're going around. She was wonderful. Thank you very much, Jamie, for all your hard work.
Yeah, she did. She did also point out to me. She's like, "That was a lot of work." I was like, "But I don't know what's happening." It was the weirdest, most vague thing ever. It's like, don't even look at it.
She went above and beyond getting that to you today here at the holiday episode. So
I have scissors, and now again, I'm gonna get you something, Luke. As soon as you're back and we're occupying the same space, I'm gonna make it worth it for you. You know?
Oh well, I'm excited for the gift exchange, even if it's only one way.
I know, and I feel bad. And it's honestly, and I'll say this before, if there's someone who's listened from when we started this, and I really hope you're not a person, because man, that's a lot of listening to these two people. But has it been every single year? At least 1 year I've gotten you something, right?
I feel like there was certainly 1 year where we did a gift exchange. For sure. And you've gotten me things before. I've got a nice Kolchak t-shirt somewhere. I've got a Continuum Drag t-shirt somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, I got you a signed poster of what's his face, Mr. Tech War.
Oh yeah. Where is that?
I don't know where that is. You know what's that? I probably have it somewhere.
Maybe you do. Maybe it is up at your house somewhere.
I think it was. Oh, you know what? We don't need to get into it, but I think it is, because remember when we were recording at my place? We've recorded in a bunch of places, and I think I put it up on the wall to jazz things up.
Oh, that's right. I do remember seeing it for a while they were recording in person.
Yeah. What's his name? Guy Steele? What's that guy's name?
Jake Cardigan?
Yeah, Jake Cardigan. Jake Cardigan himself, another actor's name is. Anyways, so without further ado, do you want me to open this box, this mystery box?
Yeah. Let's open up the box. It's not wrapped. It's just a box that got shipped to you.
It's been in at least 3 households, for what it's worth.
It's come a long way.
If you can look, Luke, I was like, did you order me like an eaves trough replacement? Because that's what the box is.
I knew what you needed for the holidays was an eavesdrop replacement.
Well, the funny thing was I just bought something for that. So,
all right, he is using his scissors to open the box now. I can't really even see what's happening, but he's now cracking open the box. So here we go.
It's
a struggle.
It's really taped.
The seller did a good job securing the item for us so that nothing would happen to it, and Jordan will struggle his way into it. Here we go. He's pulling out his gift for the holidays.
And it is. I can't tell. It's in a wrapper.
A lot of bubble wrap on it.
Let me cut the bubble wrap. Something is showing through. It looks fancy. I would say fancy and fun.
Fancy.
I'd say fancy and fun. And what it is, oh my goodness, that's actually pretty funny. And Luke, I'll show you.
Oh, it looks better than I imagined.
It is. I didn't even know this was a thing. So apparently RoboCop the series, a show we watched not too long ago, that I think, Luke, you said was your favorite show, and was the golden age of television, is what you said. There was a character named Pudface who came back in several episodes, who's a man who had like a disorder of some sort.
Face.
Who then RoboCop always was hitting, and he was worried about his nose. They've made it into an action figure, and Luke has got me the toy.
In box, completely sealed.
So, oh my goodness, someone they made 5 figures. Do you know who the 5 figures are?
I think obviously RoboCop's in there.
Yeah, you got RoboCop. He's battle damaged. That's the only version you get is battle damaged.
You can only have battle damaged RoboCop. I believe his partner Hannigan, was her name Hannigan?
Madigan. Yeah.
Madigan.
Yeah, Madigan. Yeah, you're right. That's 2.
Is Crazy Millardo? Did Crazy Millardo get a figure?
He did not. But we said Pudface. So Pudface is 3, who I have. And by the way, we'll go up on, if I had a mantle, it'll go on a mantle, but I'll find
Take a photo so we can put it on social media.
Okay.
Too.
I'll put it in a special spot. He also comes with a missile launcher. Remember he used the missile launcher?
That's true. Wait, who are the other 2 figures?
Okay. We've got Stan Parks, RoboCop Sergeant.
Oh yeah. The Udo Kier? Who played him?
No, this is a different. It's some dude. I don't actually even kind of remember him. It's a weird choice. And before I tell you the last figure, you also can get a cryo chamber, and you can freeze RoboCop and bring him back to life, it says.
Oh, that's fun. A fun playset.
But the last character, I don't think any of us would have guessed. But again,
Oh, I know who it is.
Who is it, Luke?
It's Commander Cash.
It's Commander Cash, which is so bizarre. It's so bizarre. Do you think they thought that was going to be like kids were going to be like quoting those commercials?
I remember because I did see that Commander Cash was an option of figures because he looks nothing like the other figures in the series because he's a cartoon character. So you just get a bunch of realistic quote unquote action figures and then one just wildly cartoony one.
I'll say a couple things. The accuracy of Pudface is pretty close. Luke, what do you think? Pretty good, right?
It's pretty good. He's a really weird looking. I like the fedora.
It's made from Toy Island, who I'm not that familiar with, but what it looks like to me, and it's probably not, but it actually looks like the late '80s versions of the Star Trek Next Generation figures. Not when they got remade by, I think it was Hasbro or someone, but the first ones that I remember my grandmother buying my brother and I 2 characters, of course, Data and Geordi, our favorite characters, and it was in Bioway. A Canadian store that's gone now. But it looks like the same company. I'm going to look it up and see if Toy Island also made those toys. But thank you very much, Pudface.
I was just impressed at the 1 season show of RoboCop 25 more years ago. You could still get an in-box Pudface. Perfect condition.
It is perfect condition. I can't believe it's in box. That's crazy.
Yeah. There were so many of them available.
Is that right?
I just picked one that was from Canada, so it would be cheaper shipping.
Oh, I honestly, I don't even think we talked about when we did the show that it had a toy line.
Yeah, they really were hoping they could sell some more toys.
Yeah, and the series just wasn't that good, unfortunately.
Anyway, congratulations on your new Pudface.
Thank you very much. And Merry Christmas.
Yes, thank you very much.
Oh, you know what I'm gonna do, Luke? I'm gonna see if in Korea I can get you a Commander Cash and send him over.
Oh, good, thank you.
and we can play via Zoom.
Well, let's get back to the matter at hand. It's Legend. We're back. We're back to do some more Legend.
Yeah, and I think the one thing we haven't mentioned, and Luke, you and I, as we sometimes do, talk when there's not microphones in front of our face. I think it was when we turned off. We said, done, recorded. We gave ourselves virtual high fives. And you were like, man, this show is everything I don't like about TV shows. And I actually thought about that, and I felt bad because I got really excited when I was kind of reminded of this. But I didn't, and this is insensitive, I didn't even consider that you would hate this so much.
You don't know all my likes and dislikes. You didn't
I know, but
this
still.
was going to click off so many boxes for me.
I think my own enthusiasm clouded my vision to how much this would not check your boxes.
Listen, here's the thing. We're going to get into it in a second, obviously. We'll get into the series. I'm not saying this couldn't work for me. I just think that, like, the gadgets aren't wacky enough. The adventures aren't crazy enough. Like, I think this needs to, like, be quite exceptional for it to, like, work for me. And we'll decide whether these episodes are exceptional later.
Well, and let me say the one thing, though. On the flip side of this, I think, and this will be a reason for my ratings later on, I think this is the exact show they want to make. I think it's the tone they want. It's the look they want. It's the music they want. Your results may vary how much you like it, but I don't think it's one of the shows, which we've seen multiple versions of over the years, where you're like, oh, this could have been really good if the budget was better or the performance was better or, this had been made 10 years later or, it wasn't fully realized in one way or another. This is fully realized for what the show they want to make. It's just, is this a show you want or not?
I can't believe this is fully realized, but
you don't think
I guess
so?
you're
I
probably
think it
right.
is.
No, I think you might be right, but I can't believe this is someone sat down and was like, this is exactly what I hope to make.
And I think it's also a time period, though. There's a lot of these, I was thinking about this recently because I was looking up, we were talking about, I was looking up an old movie and I was trying to find it. And I came across this, like, I think it was a Sinbad comedy Western that came out around the same time. Like, people were just like, this is, Back to the Future 3. This is what people want. They want kind of funny Westerns for some reason. And this is that.
Fair enough. Well, let's get into a little bit. I was looking into kind of, the making of the show and stuff. But the series was created by Michael Pilar and Bill Dial, who, Michael Pilar, do you know that name off the top of your head?
Yeah, he's Star Trek, isn't he?
He created Deep Space Nine and Voyager. He was one of the co-creators of both of those series, which obviously are on the air while this is coming out, which to me is just is baffling. It, like, the quality differential is insane.
Yeah, his Coke budget was through the roof.
And Bill Dial, who he co-created with, I think they were partners. They had a company together. But Bill Dial, he'd previously written, for us anyway, 8 episodes of Season 4 and Season 5 of Sliders.
That's right. I saw that. Yeah.
But he also, Jordan, I think you'll appreciate this, he also wrote on the first season of WKRP in Cincinnati.
I do like that. I like that show. That's funny.
So I looked at, there's nothing that exciting about kind of like, obviously creator of DS9 and Voyager, that's some pedigree right there. But no, there was nothing really special otherwise behind the scenes of that. So I just did a little game for you here. I thought we'd do a match the credit game.
And let me just ask you this. Is Stephen Baldwin in this game?
He's not. What I did is in this game, I stuck to obviously the 2 creators, Michael Pilar and Bill Dial, and then I included the 4 series regulars.
Okay.
Richard Dean Anderson, John Delancey, Mark Adair Rios, and Jared Paul.
Okay, sounds good.
And I made it specific, though. This is match the first TV credit. So this will be their first TV credits.
Oh, okay.
So those are your 6 people. And the possible TV credits are Life Goes On, A Family for Joe, The Tony Randall Show, Cagney and Lacey, General Hospital, and Captains and the Kings.
Oh, wow. There's a lot there.
Do you want me to? Do you want me to go down the names of the people again, or the names of the shows? How do you want to match them?
Let's do each show, and I'm going to tell you the person is, and each one's going to be a home run, and you're going to be blown away.
Great. Well, let's start with Life Goes On.
I think Life Goes On is Richard Dean Anderson. Boom.
R. Richard Dean Anderson. RDA.
Yeah.
All right. What about General Hospital?
I think General Hospital.
Now remember, Michael Pilar and Bill Dial are in this, the 2 writers.
I know. I had my first inclination is John Delancey, but I keep forgetting about those 2 dudes. But I have a feeling one of them wrote Cagney and Lacey. So I'm gonna say I'm still gonna go with John Delancey.
John Delancey for General Hospital. All right. Yeah. Well, let's go to Cagney and Lacey.
And I think it's I'm gonna say Bill Dial.
Bill Dial. All right.
Yeah.
And then what about Captains and the Kings? It was a TV movie about Irish immigrants coming to America?
I believe that is Jared Paul.
Jared Paul. What about the Tony Randall Show?
I think the Tony Randall Show is the other writer. I can't remember his name.
Bill Dial?
Yeah. No, I said Bill Dial already. Who's the other guy?
Oh, sorry. Michael Pilar.
Michael Pilar. Yeah.
And I believe the final one is a TV movie called A Family for Joe, which was about orphan children who hire a vagrant to pretend to be their grandfather.
And that has to obviously be Mark Alder Rios.
Mark Alder Rios.
I'll be honest, I want to go in with confidence, but I feel like I'm getting 0 out of 6.
Jordan, you got 0 out of 6.
Well, you know what? Sometimes you just go with the feeling.
Well, fair enough. Michael Pilar, Jordan, DS9 Voyager creator, first TV gig was writing for Cagney and Lacey.
Wow.
And then Bill Dial, his first TV writing gig was the Tony Randall Show.
Wow, Tony Randall. Remember Tony Randall?
I don't really know.
Yeah, I remember Tony Randall. Anyways, he used to do really funny gigs though with Letterman in the 90s, and they just would have like Tony Randall on a roof and stuff. Anyways.
Richard Dean Anderson's first TV job was General Hospital.
Wow. Well, you know what? That actually makes sense. He's a handsome gentleman, and they can't run out of those.
No, it's true. That is a pretty common refrain. John Delancey's first TV gig was the Irish immigrant TV movie Captains and the Kings.
Wow. I wouldn't have guessed that.
Mike Adar Rios' first TV gig was Life Goes On.
Which I said Richard.
Do you know what that is? Have you seen that show?
Yeah. Is that with Corky?
I guess so. I don't really know it. I looked at it and I was like, I was just like, I'd never heard of it before, and I was like,
Obla-dee,
is this a
Obla-da?
show about it's like a gentleman with Down syndrome is like the star of it. I was like, that's
his
amazing.
name's Corky, and they have a version of the Beatles' Obla-dee, Obla-da as the song. I watched it. I think it was like kind of like an after school like good-hearted, we learn lessons. Like, I think it's like a pre-Seventh Heaven sort of tone, you know?
Interesting. I saw it in the trivia. It was one of the first series to deal with the AIDS epidemic.
Oh. Also like that Chuck Norris episode with the kid from The Sixth Sense. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Walker told me he had AIDS. Anyways.
Whoa.
I'll send you a thing on it.
Yeah, send me a thing on that. And then finally, of course, Jared Paul, who is the child with the wacky hair in this. Yeah.
I think he's Canadian.
His first gig was A Family for Joe. He was one of the children who were orphaned and hired a vagrant to be their grandfather.
Is that a comedy, or is that like one of those TV movies I used to watch as a kid with my mom when they'd be like kind of horrible and they'd be about like a real life story and do a TV movie version of it?
No, I think it was
Baxter.
leaned to like light comedy, family drama comedy kind of thing. I don't think it was a true story.
It wasn't like Meredith Baxter has syphilis on Christmas, and I'm like, why am I watching this as a kid?
Your mom's like, sit down. We have to find out what happened.
There was so many of them. They always have Meredith Baxter in them. But they were always like really sad. I remember there was one about a kid getting abducted, and he came back like 10 years later, and I was like, why am I watching this as a kid? It's horrible.
Wait, was he abducted from Swamp Thing?
No, he was. They made a TV movie, and it's this kid who got abducted, and he was gone for years and years, and then the police found him as like an adult, and he came back, and the whole thing was the parents kept the Christmas present under the tree for him. I remember being horrified because I had never thought about being abducted before, and here I'm watching this TV movie. I'm like, wait, is this going to happen to me on Christmas? Yeah. Anyways, that's what we're talking about.
A lot of trauma in your childhood. TV-related
trauma, so not real trauma.
Well, Jordan, that was the little game.
I liked it.
We all learned something. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we learned that PLR and Dial have been killing it for years.
Well, then, speaking of killing it, here's the IMDb summary for Episode 2, Mr. Pratt Goes to Sheridan. A well-known bank robber named Jimmy Siringo comes to Pratt telling him he's been falsely accused of murdering a bank guard and stealing $1 million, and wants his help in clearing his name of said charges.
Okay, so a couple weird things about this episode. As I mentioned earlier, Stephen Baldwin plays a character in this, but it's like at all times, I guess, like a weird stunt casting, but also I don't know why, because it's not like he's doing anything interesting. Like, it's one of those weird TV things where they'll be like, special guest star, John Q, whatever, and it's like, why is this person in this episode? It's not, it just was odd.
Do you think it was, I couldn't tell if it was like stunt casting or if it was just like an early role in his career.
That's what I mean. It was the same thing. It was like, is this a big get for them? I couldn't tell. I guess Alec Baldwin had made The Shadow, maybe.
Yeah, I couldn't tell if it was just like, oh, hey, Baldwin had an early job and this was it, or if it was like, can you believe one of the Baldwins is on the show? I couldn't decide.
Yeah. Anyways, but don't you think it's a little bit underwhelming?
I mean, yes, I find the show underwhelming.
I should say that you hate the show. You find the whole thing underwhelming. But I found him as a if it's a stunt casting, I was like, to what effect?
Not to spoil the next episode, but I feel like it was not stunt casting. Because when we get to the next episode, Ulysses S. Grant appears in it. So I was like, oh, is this going to be the thing? Or every episode they like stunt cast someone like crazy in like the role, like the guest role. But then like nobody's playing, like no one's playing Ulysses S. Grant. I'm like, oh, so I just took it as like, I mean, I guess maybe it is. I don't know.
I will disagree. G.W. Bailey's playing him, and most famously known for Captain Harris in the Police Academy movies. A real big get. Thank you very much.
I apologize. Back to the episode at hand. Picks up right after the pilot. Pratt is now moving to Sheridan, which is turning itself into like a town that is a destination for legend tourists. They like, we bought this, obviously a trope from those days, a cigar store Indian, and we're going to turn him into a Pratt wax doll or something. I was like, well, I don't know. So like the idea that Sheridan's now going to capitalize on legend, I guess.
I thought it was interesting that they chose to keep leaning into what I think works the least in this show, which is this whole misunderstood or mistaken identity sort of thing. Because I thought like, okay, they're off to the races now. Now it's just going to be him as legend, and they're going to go on, legendary adventures. But they're still like having to have him be begrudgingly do things. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I love that, just because I don't love seeing a character get pulled into an adventure that I know he's going to get pulled into anyways, and he's just dragging his feet so that they can make their time limit.
I will say this entire episode is just a retread of the exact plot that we just saw in the pilot. Like, I don't want to be legend. My name is Pratt. Like, I'm just like, we just did this.
Yeah.
And the end of the episode was you were agreeing to be legend, and now we're back to you not wanting to do it?
Yeah, that's like, maybe that's a better way of my point. It does feel almost like this is the pilot again for whatever reason. I'm like, you guys already had an hour and a half.
I mean, I'll give it to this. At least it's shorter this time. But you're right. Pratt's coming to town. He does not want to come. They give it the reason. It's just like, apparently, like, in the interim, he's like, was forced to come back because his contract with his publisher forces him to live with Bartok in Sheridan and produce 5 books a year. And I was like, okay, what?
That's what I mean. It's like, this wasn't needed. It could just be like, he's in the town now. They have adventures. I was like, I just don't need all this.
Well, that was the end of the pilot. That was the end of the pilot.
Yeah. Well, it's weird because it's like they're doing like a course correction, but not, because they're mentioning it again. You're like, okay, cool.
You know what was cool about the pilot? About how much he didn't want to do this. Let's bring that back. Anyway, Pratt gets to town. He slips away from the welcoming ceremony because he doesn't want to be there. And then he gets cornered by Bartok and the local mayor / taxidermist, which I guess is a joke.
Yeah.
And like Bartok is able to convince the entire town, because the town is only filled with morons, that it's because he's undercover.
Yeah. It is weird. You mentioned this in the pilot, and I don't know if I disagreed with it at the time, but then as I've thought about it, I think you're probably right. It really is this sort of like Bartok and Legend, whatever Legend's name is, Nicodemus.
Pratt.
Ernest Pratt. They are really the only ones who are sort of like, can you believe all these people are idiots? And I guess the joke is they're idiots because it's the, the 19th century, so thus they don't get it. It doesn't. Again, it's what I think is the worst part of the show, and I wish they would just go on adventures with magnets.
Yeah. At any rate, that's sort of the setup. He's back. Everyone in this town is a moron. He doesn't want to be there. A telegram has arrived for him, which contains the plot of the episode, in that a bank robber named Gentleman Jim Siringo has offered to turn himself in, but he will only turn himself into legend. And I think this is maybe the only part of it I liked. So they give him this telegram, and Pratt's just like, no thanks, and he just walks away. And I was like, well, I do like find it funny that he just is turning down the adventure immediately.
Yeah, I also like the name John Siringo, Jimmy Siringo. Good name.
Gentleman Jimmy Siringo.
Yeah, that's good.
Anyway, Pratt moves into the local hotel. We get a bit of some comedy beats where he's like, I'm going to go to the saloon and have a drink. And they're like, Legend doesn't drink. And he's like, has to explain. It's like, oh, I'm a writer who writes these. And they're like, well, I still can't serve you because people will think Legend's drinking. So he has to which turns into a running gag, I guess, for the series is that he only now drinks bourbon out of a teacup so he can say he's drinking tea.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all right. It's all right.
And then he tries to join a poker game in progress, but everyone at the poker game gets upset and leaves because they don't want to gamble with Legend because Legend notoriously doesn't gamble. But I was just like, wouldn't they just want to take his money? Why do these people care so much?
Yeah, it's a weird. I can't quite figure out what it is they're going for in this. And I'll say this, I like the show. I think it's a silly little time. It's it's a little time waster. I wish they wouldn't spend so much time on this. Unless people being dumb. I just the jokes don't work and the payoff for these don't work. So just have them solve capers with fun technology. I think that's where the strength is. And I have a feeling as we go through the course of the show, they don't want to lean in that as much. To my point at the beginning of the show, I think they know what they want, and this is the show they want.
Yeah, fair enough. It basically ends up with Pratt giving up in the saloon as he leaves. Jimmy Siringo's just waiting outside, and he's just explains Stephen Baldwin, obviously, for appearing very suddenly. He's just like, hey, listen, I sent you that letter. I wanted to come here and meet you in person. Essentially, I need your help as Legend because I've been accused of murdering a guard during a robbery. I did do that robbery, but I did not do the murder, and I want Legend to figure out who's framed me. And, of course, as we know from Pratt's his one character flaw, the only one he has, if he gets flattered, he'll do anything. So he's just like, I'm on the case.
Yeah. And I thought this is where it sort of takes off a little bit. I'm like, okay, this is okay. This is something a little different where they need to actually solve a case of some sort. I was like, great. Let's drop all the other stuff with drinking tea and stuff.
Yeah. And they do. Him and Bartok hop on the Legend balloon. They travel out to the bank where the crime happened, and Bartok just starts CSIing it up. He's got all this CSI tech. He's like, let's see the trajectory of the bullet, and let's find it. And very clearly, it starts to look like the bank robber was clearly murdered by someone else. The way the bullet hit him couldn't have been from the bank robber as he left. And just to drive it home, as soon as they walk out of the bank, the bank employees are like, I guess we got to kill Legend now too.
It is funny that they have to do that. I think that's just a sign of the times of the TV show where you have to really telegraph for everyone what's going to happen. You already knew they're already being shifty and nothing adds up into the story that the bank people have told Legend, but then they have to add that. You're right. That almost mustache twirling scene or just to really drive it home.
Yeah. And I mean, the big thing of this episode is kind of the CSI stuff. They go to the funeral home or wherever the body's kept, and they do some CSI on that, and they reconfirm he couldn't have been shot by the guy. And this is enough evidence. They bring it to the law enforcement who's investigating, and they are like, all right, great. We believe you more or less now, but you still have to bring in Siringo so we can investigate. And we get a scene where they all meet up at the, I guess, designated spot. It all just kind of happens so quickly, and I just I'm like, oh, I guess we're here. Siringo rides into town. He's going to give himself up to Pratt/Legend, but all the bad guys at the bank, there's dozens of them for some reason, have also gathered to assassinate, I guess they've said Legend and Siringo. So they start shooting at Siringo. He gets hit in the arm, but he's not hurt. Pratt runs out and sort of saves him, and then they get on the Legend balloon to escape. But it's this, it's so, all of it is they're hanging in the air like perfect targets, slowly floating away from town, and all the bad guys stop shooting at them suddenly. I couldn't make heads or tails. The whole shootout
was weird because what you I don't know if you quite articulated. They're sort of almost like assassins. There's one on a roof and one behind a barrel and one somewhere else. So it's a bad way to say it, but a fish in a barrel sort of situation is what you think is going to happen. But then yes, they just escape. You're like, hey, well, I guess they can't hit that gigantic balloon. But Luke, now they escaped, and they get to discuss how they are going to go into the bank and rob it with dynamite to break in to see if they can find the information they're missing. I was like, this is the point. I was like, is that what they had to do?
It's crazy. Yeah, they escape. They have a conversation where it's like Siringo's like, I'm not really a bad guy. I'm actually Robin Hood. So like, I'm on the good guy's side.
Yeah, that's what he's basically like. I've been robbing, but because I didn't have any opportunities and I give the money away to people, that's why everyone likes me so much. You're right, like Robin Hood, because they really want to drive home that he's a good guy, and even though he's done this thing, he's done it for good motives,
good reasons.
Yeah,
and there's like reasons. A subplot to help like drive home the Pratt legend thing, where he's just like, I didn't used to like my name, Gentleman Jim Siringo, but now I realize it's an important like moniker that means things to people, just like legend, which is the lesson you need to learn, Pratt. Which I'm like, we already did this. We already learned this lesson.
Yeah, and Pratt's like, maybe there is something about this. Maybe there is.
And then sort of like to keep the wheels spinning, there's like a sequence where like Bartok puts on comically large magnifying glasses and they look at the bullet that shot Siringo and they compare it to the bullet that shot the guy at the bank, and they're like, they're the same bullet. I'm just like, we know this. Why are we having another scene where we're like, we're doing CSI on the bullets, you guys?
But don't worry, they're going to get to the bank. The final act is happening.
And they're like, I mean, not to go back to what you already said, but yeah, they're like, we got to go to the bank because the evidence that the people who work at the bank were the ones who stole the money and shot this guy is in the bank vault. And I'm just like, why would it possibly? What evidence? Like they wrote all the information down on a sheet of paper and put it in the bank vault?
That's the funny thing.
How would you know?
Basically, the plot, which we've kind of just jumped over, or the crime is what it is they knew the bank was going to get robbed at some point. They allowed it to get robbed, and then they claimed much more was robbed than they said they would, and then to shut the guy up, this Jimmy they'll frame him for murder, so he'll get hanged or whatever it is, and thus they can get away with the money. That was what the basic crime was, but for some reason they've kept evidence of this. I'm guessing it's bank ledgers, and someone knows how to read like cost reports, so that they could go, wait a minute, this is a much higher ledger than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, why would you have that? Why would you keep your crime ledger in the bank vault where you did the crime?
And I know we're going to jump ahead here for this, but when this all is said and done, and there's going to be a scene where the sheriff opens up the safe and looks at the information, and he just like looks at Legend, and obviously the look is like, you were right. And I was like, there's no way he gleaned that from looking at that piece of paper. There's no way. He
glanced at the sheet of paper. Yeah. I know. He glances at it. He's like, well, case solved. I'm like, what?
Like it might, unless it was a picture of the two guys holding a sign that says "We're guilty." There's no way he would have got it from that piece of paper.
Here's the thing, Jordan. Also, the plot in the pilot where they have to go break into a vault to find a sheet of paper that proves the bad guys did something bad. I was just like, again, we're doing this again.
I do think your point is a correct one. What I thought watching this is they did the pilot. They liked it. It did well enough to do the series. They did the series, and the studio said, give us the same episode, basically. We like it, but we're not going to cut down the other one. So give us the same basic thing, and they did.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, so they break into the bank. You're right. There's a whole thing of like, we're going to use dynamite, but Bartok's like, I've invented a new invention. Bartok's crazy nitroglycerin. Let's use that instead.
Yeah. And you're right. You do make a good point. There's not enough, like, crazy inventions, and you wish they would lean into that more. It's like you literally have that character. That's what he does. So it should be nonstop of those inventions and doohickeys constantly getting them into trouble and then also getting them out of trouble.
90% of Bartok's inventions, we see more of them. I'm not talking about them all in this episode, but 90% of them that we see in this episode are just that taser we saw in the first episode. He's constantly just the only effect they have is that blue electricity.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. It's like it should be written in the plot, which would make it more entertaining that, Legend is forced to do something because Bartok has accidentally set off a series of events because of an invention, but thus by the time you get to the third act, you realize, oh, this invention actually helps save the day, and so thus it's okay. That's the sort of thing I kind of was hoping for, and for whatever reason, where they're more concerned is this duality of Pratt Legend, which I don't hate. I just don't think it's the strong part of the series. Like, you have these two characters, and this is like your classic sort of like cop pairing. Why not lead into that one is sort of grumpy and doesn't want to be doing the adventures, and the other guy is overly enthusiastic and has these inventions he's created that give wacky adventures. I'm like, isn't that the tone of the show you guys want?
You'd think so. Bartok's so sidelined in these episodes.
Yes,
it's crazy
agreed.
how little they use Bartok. Anyway, he blows up the safe. It's such a big explosion. It shoots the safe comically through the roof, flies over them. Because they're robbing the bank, the sheriff and all his men have surrounded to catch them. As we've said, safe lands, door swings open, sheriff picks up a piece of paper and is like, mystery solved. And we're like, okay, cool.
Yeah, and then they're like, they basically tell Siringo the charges are dropped, and they give him a reward. The bank gives him a reward. I was like, I don't think so.
Reward for what?
Yeah, for solving the case. I'm like, but he still stole money.
Yeah. And Pratt learns the lesson that having a good name is important, and you should protect it.
Yeah, and that's the episode.
That's not true though, because the final scene of it is as the final credit starts to roll, we see the legend balloon floating off in the distance, and ADR lines come on, and Bartok turns to in the ADR lines, you just hear Bartok say, "Oh, Pratt, I guess adventure is in your heart again." And Pratt says, "I thought it was the fish taco."
That's right. I forgot about that. You're right. Yeah.
And I was like, was that a little joke for us to end it? Was it a joke?
Someone was like, punch it up at the end. They're like, fish taco? You're like, sold.
You're a genius.
But that brings us to episode 3, Legend on His President's Secret Service.
Yeah. I just want to ask you one thing. Did you stay for the credits?
No.
They, for whatever reason, during the credits, do a split screen and just show you a slightly longer outtake of Pratt walking through the saloon. It's just Richard Dean Anderson like wandering through the saloon for a longer period of time. Nothing specifically happening. He just kind of like is just walking through the saloon. I was like, why is this in the credits?
Well, it's funny that, because I didn't watch that, but it's interesting. I get the sense while watching the show, and I can't remember if I mentioned this in the first podcast, so if I'm repeating myself, apologies. This feels like a bit of a passion project for Richard Dean Anderson. He just came off a very successful show in MacGyver, and he was a big TV star. And you have this show, and it feels like he really wants to play with his character. You know, like he's doing a sketch, and he just loves this thing. And it's sort of landing, but sort of not landing. But he's like, he just loves it, so he's giving it his all. It's sort of like, it feels a little bit like Mike Myers in The Guru. You know? You know what I mean? Like if you remember, like when that movie was made, like he loved this character. He was trying it out on the road, and he was working on it for years and testing and all this stuff. And they're like, and then you watch this thing. I only saw bits of that movie, but because it looked terrible, and it is terrible. But it's like, this is the thing. Like no one stopped and said, like, I don't know if this is the gig for you. But I get, and I know that's a little bit maybe insulting towards the show, because again, I think it has its charm. But it does feel a little bit like he's like, I want to be a funny cowboy who walks funny and kind of falls over sometimes. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense. It does feel like there's a character he wants to play, and then they just were like slap something around that character.
Yeah, there might be a little bit of that.
All right. Well, here's the IMDb summary for episode 3, Legend on His President's Secret Service.
Well, Mr. Pratt, you told me not long ago that you had no talent for intrigue. I believe that you were incorrect. We could use a man like you in Washington.
There might be something there, Ernest. Mr. Legend goes to Washington.
No, I don't think so. I'll leave Washington to the professionals, like your good man Potter on yon horizon. Hello?
Yes, well, that'll be the ruin of Washington. Too many professionals.
President Ulysses S. Grant seeks Pratt's help to uncover a possible plot to kill him, and who knows who else?
Is that what it says?
That's what it says. I'm like, who knows who else? Nobody else.
So this opening shot, I don't think anyone will be fooled. It's like he's basically, it starts with him, Legend, sort of like talking about the South and how he's always been a friend of the Confederates and blah, blah, blah. And then you're like, would you believe it? He's being strung up for something he wrote in his book?
Yeah, I believe in the books, Legend was a Union soldier, and he's been on this tour of the South promoting his book. So they've got him hung upside down. A bunch of ex-Confederate soldiers are going to tar and feather him for being a Unionist, and
seems a little bit
where we
much.
find him. It's weird. It is a weird beginning, and also again, people are idiots. They don't understand the character versus the author.
Yeah, so he's there like, oh, he's in a real situation. Now, Luke, didn't this seem like a great scene? He's got himself into something again. Now, I hate that it happened off camera, but regardless, sure, he's in a situation. Don't worry, Bartok's around with his crazy inventions. Nope,
Not at all.
nope, that's not how they're going to solve it. It's like, well, that's what it's there for. It should have been a thing where like he gets him out, but also like burns his hair or something. You know what I mean? So it's like he has a reason to be irritated still, but he's also begrudgingly thankful because he got him out of it. You know, because this machine doesn't work as well as it should. I'm like, I think that's the gags they're going for, again, whether you like that or not. But instead it's like, no, we'll introduce a new character, this Abigail Steele, who sort of like shoots a warning shot and scares all the guys, and then immediately she's into him.
And she's comically won't let him down. She leaves him hung upside down the entire scene, and she's telling him, he's like, I need your help. My father, Ethan Steele, he's a former Confederate general, and he's plotting to assassinate President Ulysses S. Grant, and like, I need you to go talk him out of it. And he's just like, and like, it's kind of like played for laughs because she won't let him. She's like she's kind of flighty. She doesn't think all the way through, so she doesn't let him down. And Pratt's just like, please untie me first. And then like we cut to credits.
Yeah. Cut to credits, and then he goes and sees Bartok and basically discusses, hey, I think I got an idea for a book, which is this plot line of someone's trying to assassinate the president.
Well, it also they cut back to Bartok's lab, and Pratt's like telling him about the whole thing, and Bartok's like, oh, so did you go talk to the general? He's like, nah, I just left. He's like, well, did you warn the president? He's like, nah, I didn't do anything. I'm like, okay.
Because Luke, he has other priorities, which is he's trying to get laid.
That's right, because he's busy. Bartok does talk him into sending a letter to the president, and so he sends him a telegram or something. I guess it's the old times. You can just send a telegram to the president. But he goes back to the saloon, and he picks up a woman at the saloon who's just, she's down for whatever, and Pratt's like, yeah, let's go up to my hotel room. And as they're going up there, he's stopped by two federal marshals who want to interview Pratt about the threat he just reported to the president's life.
Right. I think they are implying she is a prostitute, but I think because it's a like G-rated show, they don't really lean into it.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't catch that. I thought she was just like, he met a woman who was like on his level or something.
Yeah, I could be wrong. I think it's supposed to be a prostitute, but again, it's like kids TV essentially, so they're just like, let's just get around this.
I mean, a lot of innuendos thrown around,
yes.
But like those ones that you're kind of like, maybe. Anyway, he's interviewed by these people, and as soon as they leave his room, Abigail from Texas climbs through his like second floor hotel window and just like, those weren't federal marshals, those are my dad's men. They came here to decide if they need to kill you too because you know too much about their assassination plot.
Mm-hmm.
So they leave his room, and like, whatever, the woman, he bumps into the woman from the saloon, and she's upset that he's with another girl. I don't know, whatever, who cares? It's just jokes, I guess.
You're right. That's just what it is. It's just jokes. It doesn't really progress anything.
And they get outside the saloon, and her dad is just waiting outside. Like, he's also come all the way to Sheridan, and like, they go and sit down at the saloon, and the guy basically is just like, listen, my daughter is a crazy person. I'm not planning to kill Grant. I just hate Reconstruction of the South, and I blame Grant for it. And just listen, don't mention this to anyone. I don't want to humiliate my crazy daughter. And Pratt's just like, yeah, it makes sense to me. I got to go hook up that booty call now. See you later, guy from the South.
Yeah. And I'm going to say, the last plot from the last episode, as kind of silly as it is that like, there's an embezzlement happening and they want to get the guy killed, and it doesn't really make sense why they have the evidence there. This plot of like this assassination, for whatever reason, I found it boring, and it was like convoluted, but not in like a complicated way, just like a muddy way they presented it. And I was just like, I just get to the assassination. That's fun. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, Jordan. He talks to this guy. He's like, well, I'm going to try to hook up that booty call. Steps outside. Now a Secret Service agent stops him and is just like, let's have a conversation about your report about an assassination. And that anyway gets Bartok and Pratt on a balloon to go visit President Grant on his train. Classic caricature of Grant. He's a drunk. His wife is controlling or something. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
Grant knows this Steele character from West Point. They both courted his wife. And he wants Pratt to go to Texas to uncover the truth of the conspiracy. And if he doesn't do it, they'll charge him with being a conspirator against Grant's life. So Pratt has no choice but to do it.
Yeah.
They take the balloon down to Texas to the to Steele's compound. Bartok's got a new invention. He's created the Bartok thermal emissions detector, which is essentially night vision. He's created night vision.
Yeah, and this like scene, as played for laughs and as kind of cartoony it is as it is. Basically, it's like a thing he's going to try to use. Like, he wants to do this like thermal vision thing, and they accidentally, I don't know what happens. They accidentally fire off something, and the sound waves blow apart.
Oh, that's like
everything.
20 minutes from now.
Oh, that's the one. Oh, I don't even remember what the thermal one is then.
It's just night vision, and then Pratt
that's right. They
uses
just
it
peep. They just
peep on the daughter as she changes.
That's right. Sorry, I mixed this up with the other scene. Yes, and then he goes into the room, and she's like,
He uses a zip line. He's got a zip line for some reason. He zip lines down into her room.
Yeah. He grapples.
He grapples. But yeah, she's just like, yeah, no, he's going to kill the president. That continues to be the refrain. He's in the bunkhouse now planning it. They go over there. Bartok, this is where he's got this like invention where he's just like, I point this like sound listening machine, this dish at the wall, and then you can listen through the wall because I've built it for you. And as he's listening to the plan, Bartok turns to him and he's like, well, the only thing that could go wrong is if lightning hits it. And then lightning immediately hits it. It causes like a feedback loop and blows the wall off the bunkhouse, and they're caught for their eavesdropping or whatever. It's wacky. It's so wacky, Jordan.
Yeah, so it's funny. They get caught, but it's like really to no effect because almost immediately Bartok's assistant like uses this electricity ball thing that they showed in the beginning of the episode to like zap the guards, and so then they're out. I'm like, okay,
I know
there wasn't really any consequence.
They're like, we created lightning balls, and Bartok, what are those good for? He's like, I don't know yet. We'll find out later. And then it's like, I'll just shoot lightning balls at the bad guys and save them.
Funny. It's funny to your point of the inventions because they came up with a lightning ball in this episode, but it really is the exact same as the other electricity gun he has.
Exactly the same.
I'm like, it could have been a thing that, I don't know, shoots out, this is bad, but shoots out rubber bands that ties you up. Or it could have been a thing that it's a net gun or, a thing that blinds you for a minute. I don't know. There's a lot of different things other than another electricity gun.
Yeah, at any rate, what they've learned is that the General Steele is not planning to kill the president. He's planning to kidnap the president and then force him to see how much Reconstruction of the South sucks. This is weird. I don't know enough about that era, but this all of this like rang a little weird to me.
I thought so too. There's like I don't know if
there's good guys on both sides idea.
Yeah, I think you also have to be a little bit more well versed in American history, and I don't know everyone's lasting feelings about Ulysses S. Grant and all this stuff. I was just like, okay, I don't know.
Yeah, it all was very odd. I'm just like, there's a real like, you know what? There are good people on the Confederate side, and there are good people on the Union side, and we all just need to learn to get along. Seemed to be the sort of like feeling of this episode.
Yeah, it was a different time.
But anyway, they take their balloon back. They intercept Grant's train. He uses the classic Legend wings, that paraglider that we saw in the pilot, to like fly out and land on the train. Tries to warn the president. There's like a weird subplot. I guess now the Secret Service guy, he's like out for blood, so he wants to just kill the general for like even attempting to kidnap the president, which I'm like, yeah, I guess that honestly makes sense to me. That's kind of his job. But Pratt's like, no, you can't kill him. He's not a bad guy. He just wants to kidnap the president. So Pratt pulls a gun and like forces the president off the train at gunpoint onto the Legend balloon.
Yeah. And this whole thing was just so they can have a conversation. Was that really what this all is like? They just need to talk it out.
Yeah, because then, like, obviously Steele ambushes the train. When he gets on, the president's not there. It's just Pratt and his daughter, and they're just like, Daddy, you shouldn't try to keep that president. If you have a problem with the reconstruction of the South, just have a conversation with him. So they land the balloon, and then like Steele and the president are like mad at each other, but then the president's wife's just like, you boys should get along, and they're like, okay, let's go tour Reconstruction South and see what's wrong with reconstructing the South to the Unionists' plans or whatever. I was like, what is happening here?
Yeah, and that's pretty much the episode. I personally think of the three we've now seen, I would say the weakest of them.
Well, Jordan, it does still end with a shot of the balloon flying away and then ADR lines where Bartok's just like, aren't you having a nice time? And Pratt's like, I could really use a drink. And Bartok's like, that's Pratt talking, not Legend. You got to be Legend. And Pratt's just like, but I'm so thirsty.
That's pretty good. Spot on. But I was kind of hoping that every episode would end with him going like, I had the fish tacos again. Every episode.
I would rather, honestly, if that was the case, I would maybe like the show a little more.
I'm sorry. You just hate of this like silly show.
It's so dumb. It's such a dumb show, and I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
Well, let's get into rating it then.
All right, Jordan. How did you feel about Mr. Pratt Goes to Sheridan, the redo of the pilot?
Yeah, you know what? I felt better before we started talking about it, and then as we discussed it, I was like, Luke's got some points. I still find there a level of charm to it. I don't know why. It's not a great show, but to my point earlier, I think it's the show they wanted to make, and I think it's the tone that they want, and it's the type of jokes they want for whatever time slot they're in. So I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10.
6 out of 10. I mean, I obviously didn't like it.
Yeah.
I would have preferred this as the pilot for sure. It's shorter at least.
I would agree.
And does most of the same work. And I don't know. I guess it was fun to see a Baldwin.
Yeah. Oh, but to your point about this being better than the pilot, I would agree with you with the exception of there's so much less for John Delancey to do for whatever reason.
That's true. They don't know what to do with him. For some reason, there's 2 characters. There's 4 characters in the regular cast. 2 of them might as well be invisible, yes. the assistant and the boy in town.
They've made John Delancey, like a lot of shows we've seen on this podcast, is sort of almost like the wife character, where you get they introduce them and then we don't know what to do with this woman. She would talk, but for some reason they've now, I guess, equal crappy role. They've now given it to a man, and they also don't know what to do with him.
Yeah, a real gender swap, having the nagging wife as John Delancey.
Exactly.
At any rate, 1.5. I did not enjoy it.
Results may vary.
And then Jordan, Legend on his president's Secret Service.
I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10.
5 out of 10.
It was what I think is the worst thing for this show to be. Again, I don't think this thing is Casablanca by any stretch, but for what it is, it should be never boring, and this is a boring episode, so 5 out of 10.
I'm gonna give the show a compliment, Jordan. I think the show titles, the episode titles, are the best parts of the show. Mr. Pratt Goes to Sheridan, fun show titles. But yeah, bad show. 1.
But Luke, don't you remember when at the end of every episode he mentions that he shouldn't have had that fish taco?
If he said that every episode, we'd be talking a different story. Yeah, I don't know. 2 more episodes. I mean, I think we know what the show is at this point.
I think you're right. The idea that it's going to get markedly better, I think, is dwindling rapidly to the point of almost impossible. I don't think we're going to see anything where we have a major change like we did on Sliders or something, where there's a new cast, a new direction, or even what was that show where they're under the water? They also had a huge Sequest. They had a huge change. I don't think this show was on long enough, or again, that they want to change it. This is the show, so it is what it is.
It is what it is. I agree. I mean, my only hope is that they give John Delancey a little more to do in the coming episodes. I would love a plot for him.
Yeah, a plot for him, and it's you're right. It's he's an invisible character. It's you've already established who he is. He's the Q character. He's the character who has all the fun gadgets. Do that.
Yeah, I mean, we're underselling. Like, it's not that he doesn't have gadgets. There are a lot of gadgets in it. They just are a little dull or repetitive.
Yeah, well, he's pulled it like a magnet gun 3 times.
Yeah, a magnet gun. They're perpetually zapping people with electricity. I'm just like, all right. I know you have that. What else do you got?
Yeah.
Anyway, listener, if you have any thoughts on Legend, I don't know why you would. You can email us at continuumdrag@gmail.com.
Can you imagine if someone had a lot of thoughts about Legend? You actually should. I will read the email for once if you have a lot of thoughts on Legend.
I feel bad. Because we're watching this on YouTube, obviously. It's on YouTube. All of it's there.
Yeah. The quality's brutal.
The quality is potato quality. And there aren't a lot of comments on them, but the few comments that are there are like people clearly liked this. One guy, I don't know who's guy. It could be anyone. Was just like, I wish there were 100 episodes of this. I could watch it forever. And I was just like, clearly someone's getting something out of this.
Yeah.
It's just not me.
And as you mentioned, it's not like there's not talented people in front of and behind the camera, right?
I'm beside myself that the man who co-created DS9 is involved in this.
But again, to my point, and not to belabor it, this is the show they wanted. That's it. I think that's just what it is. It's just like, the show they wanted is a show that's, although I think it's fun and kind of silly, it's not a good show. We know it's not good.
Yeah. I mean, you can watch the potato quality clips that we're going to pull of this show on Instagram, X, and Facebook. So you'll get a little sense of their inventions, maybe a little bit of their adventures. I don't know what else. Maybe I don't know if I'm going to pull them saying I ate the fish taco. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. We'll find out.
Maybe Pratt trying to get laid. I don't know if it's even a good clip, right?
It's not even that like interesting. But yeah, that wraps it up for this episode, this Legend episode. Thank you for joining us, listener and Jordan. I'll see you on the next one.
Yeah, how many more of these can we do?
Can't get enough Continuum Drag? Commission a bonus episode for charity.
Want us to watch an episode we missed after using the escape pod or during a best of run? No problem.
Is there an episode of a series we've never watched or a TV movie you want us to cover? You got it.
Wish we'd comment on your favorite movie, content, or other weird media? Sure, why not?
All you have to do is make a donation to one of the charities selected by past guests on our website.
We suggest a donation of $50 per television hour of content we're watching, but everyone's means are different, so give what you can.
Get all the details about bonus episodes for charity on our website, continuumdrag.podbean.com, or follow the links in our social media profiles.
Continuum Drag is recorded in Ontario, Canada, and Seoul, South Korea. Theme music by James Rick Seidler. Produced by Jordan Dullock and Luke Black. Special thanks to Aaron Hughes.